I really enjoyed it, and I'd be a massive advocate if you can do some form of internship or paralegaling to work out what you do like, but also work out what you don't like. Like, there will be areas of law that you will absolutely hate, and that's absolutely fine. And there'll be areas of law that you love, and that's great.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Student Lawyer podcast series. Whether you're at school, sixth form, university, thinking about a career in law, or exploring law careers, you're in the right place. We are the one-stop shop for student lawyers. If you'd like to join the Student Lawyer as a writer, please email hello@thestudentLawyer.com. This episode is sponsored by the University of Law. What really sets the University of Law apart from other universities is its belief that its students should learn in a realistic, professional and contemporary context. They focus exclusively on practice-based training and give students access to their extensive career service and jobs vacancy database as soon as they accept a place with them. Through the University of Law's Pro Bono programme, law students can hone their skills by working on real cases before they graduate. The University of Law offers a range of postgraduate legal training and master's degrees designed by qualified experts to help students advance at any stage of their career. Their courses are employment focused, honing key skills in a teaching environment based on real legal practice. Part-time and online study options are also available on many of their courses to help students work and study at the same time. To find out more about the courses on offer, click the link in the description box of the podcast. Hello everyone, welcome to the Student Lawyer podcast. My name is Stephanie and I'm the host of today's episode. With me today is Laura Murray. Laura is an associate at Burges Salmon and specialises primarily in construction and engineering dispute resolution. During the show, Laura will be talking about her journey going into law and what it's like to work in the legal industry having dyslexia. She'll be talking about the kinds of cases that she works on and the tasks that she performs. And because you can never get enough trainee tips, Laura will share her opinion on what makes a trainee solicitor excel. This is a very exciting episode for me because Laura and I went to the same school, we were in the same year, and we haven't had the opportunity to properly catch up until now. So without further ado, welcome to today's episode. Thank you so much for joining us today, Laura, on The Student Lawyer. I'm very excited to have you here.
It's good to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So, Laura, please can you tell us about your route into law and explain what the journey was like having dyslexia?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose I kind of knew I wanted to be a lawyer when I was in year 8. I did a mock trial at school. I really enjoyed it. And I always thought I'd be a criminal lawyer, but it didn't end up that way. But that's kind of what kind of pushed me into kind of the legal route. I didn't know I had dyslexia until my final year at uni. So I was in doing my commercial law exam, and my tutor at the time was like, I'd never seen anyone spell business 6 different ways in an exam. It had just never really been an issue. My mum had thought it had been years ago, but it was never really picked up in your GCSEs and A-levels at that time. But you'll probably find when you're at university, they really start to kind of get critical on how you write essays and kind of how you use language. So it was picked up. I had an assessment done in my final year at uni, and I was found to be dyslexic. So that was a bit of a surprise, kind of that far on, kind of into my kind of education and into kind of my journey. After that, it was really good actually getting the diagnosis, because it meant that I got extra time in my exams, which was really helpful, actually just having that time to consider points or approach things differently when doing exams, and also had support from the university for kind of with technology and having word processing and using dictation. So I still quite like using dictation, just because I find actually speaking things out loud a lot easier than, say, writing it down. But I haven't found it. It's weird. I always make the jokes. I can't believe I've ended up going into a job that's quite wordy. And you would think if anyone goes, oh, you're dyslexic, how could you be a lawyer? It's actually completely different. I think it doesn't stop you from doing it. It just, your brain works differently. I think you approach things from a different angle. You think about things in a different way. I'm also now super critical on like wording and how I write and how other people write. So actually, when it comes to proofreading my work, I'm even more kind of aware of it. So it has actually been a benefit. So I yeah, I don't see it at all as being something that hinders me or stops my ability or stops me from getting to where I need to be. And I think if anyone who listens to these podcasts is dyslexic, that it shouldn't be something that you're, worried about or kind of scared about or thinking that it would stop you from kind of getting where you want to be. It's actually something that can be really helpful, just the way that you think and the way that you approach things. So, and word processing really helps. I'm really still terrible at doing handwritten notes, so I am all for word processing and dictation.
That's really interesting. Thank you for sharing that. I think that, like, I'm dyslexic, and something that stopped me from getting into law when I first left school is simply because I didn't really have a way with words. And I just, well, to be honest, I thought I had the world figured out, when I was at school, and I was going to go off and do something very dramatic, which some may say I did, but anyway, that's another story. But I just think, to go back to your point where you said, some people may think, oh, just because you're dyslexic, you can't have a career in law. I just think that people who are dyslexic and who excel and who do break into the industry, it just goes to show how passionate they are about the career. And you can do anything if you put your mind to it. So if this person, I think, has decided they want to do it and they are putting in all the work, all the hours, and really like achieving what they're setting out to do, I just think it goes to show how really passionate that person is and how committed they are to the industry.
I think it also shows your resilience. I think, it can be hard. Like, there are times, I look at words on a page and think, and you kind of have to take a step back. Like, I find getting away from it, sometimes reading things on a screen, I find quite difficult, and actually printing things out and reading things and using highlighting and kind of just taking a step back from kind of word, should we say it? It's I think you do take those knocks, and I think you do sometimes feel quite vulnerable or kind of exposed, especially when it is something that is, quite word heavy as a career. But equally, there are so many benefits to it, and there are so many different kind of, it's kind of using something that is perceived as a weakness, but actually using it as your strength. So, for example, picking up on kind of, proofreading and being really hot on that because you kind of have to be, but equally just, how your brain works, how you approach things differently, how you might structure things differently. Like, I love using tables. I think they're brilliant. If you're kind of looking for a big contract, you can split up those clauses and you can really you just have a better a view over them and an eyesight over them. So I think you just find workarounds for you, and actually other people in the team go, oh, actually, I've not seen someone do that before. That looks like a really good and helpful way of doing it. So
when you say you use a table when you're looking at a contract, do you mean, like, I'm just trying to imagine it, do you mean like a case brief kind of thing? I don't know.
A bit like a case brief. So I suppose if you're doing your LPC, you sometimes do them as you break down kind of all the different particles of claim and what you're going to say back and doing it that way. I normally, if I say have a particular claim come through and then looking at defence and a reply altogether, I'll then kind of separate the arguments out into columns and then go across and kind of work them out that way. I think that's a really kind of helpful way for me to just visualize it, and use colors as well. I do a lot of color coding. Everything is always very colorful. So if there's ever a contract clause that worries me, that normally goes in a red because it's a worrying clause, or if it's an okay clause, put it in green. It's, things like that kind of help my brain kind of look at it in a different way, and kind of that's how my brain works, and that's how I can kind of work everything out.
Yeah, I mean, so you've touched on my next question a little bit by talking about that table, but how has being dyslexic affected your career?
I think people are always surprised when I say I am. I think they think I'm joking. I think I've got quite a jokey personality anyway, so they think when I say, oh, I think, are you? You couldn't tell from your work. And I think I'm quite fortunate in that sense. I think I'm lucky as well, the fact that I've entered the career when we have word processing. I think if it was handwritten and doing that sort of things, that's when I really struggle doing like handwritten attendance notes and things like that. It's normally then when I come away and then do the typing up. But in all honesty, I think I made it an issue for myself, if that makes sense. I think I've always kind of been like, oh no, I'm dyslexic. Oh no, I've not approached that. Oh, I'm quite scared of, really long submissions. And actually, when I've done them, it's been absolutely fine. Because I think especially if your dyslexia hasn't been picked up till later on, you've already started to develop these kind of coping mechanisms or how you would approach things differently. So in all honesty, I don't think it has. I don't think it's made me kind of go anything that I can really see is affecting my career. I think I've maybe put a bit too much emphasis on it or been too worried about it, which has probably affected my confidence as opposed to actually my ability. So what I would say, if you are dyslexic, you probably are doing a really good job and no one knows and no one realises that you are. It's only that you know you are. Yeah. So
how about when you're at work and in the office? Is there anything different to kind of like the traditional setup that an office may have for their workers?
So legal, we do a lot of, it depends on the law firm and kind of who you're kind of training under. But a lot of lawyers I know do a lot of dictation, and I used to do loads of dictation. So that's when you speak into like a little microphone program, and then it gets sent off to your secretaries and they type it up for you, and then you get it back and you check it over. And I found that really helpful because that just really got me thinking about kind of the letters and speaking, and then getting someone else to type it up and then looking over it. Equally, though, I do find the benefits of word processing in the sense that you type something out and then you look at it and then you jiggle it about a bit, move it around the page, and then you move the structure around. So I find, I found that kind of different approaches to it. As I said, I print everything off. I used to have different coloured paper. I found that really helpful because sometimes the kind of black and white contrast can be quite difficult when you're dyslexic. Yeah. So I found actually different coloured paper really helpful. And I've been really honest with my supervisors when I've had it. I've said, look, I've got dyslexia. I know sometimes, there might be issues with structure. Please just tell me. Please, let's just have a really open kind of conversation about it. Like, I'm here to learn and I want to kind of be the best lawyer that I can be. And I still take that approach now. If there are things in my structure of how I'm dealing with submissions for something, then I'm all for having that feedback and kind of learning and keep learning.
That's really good to know. Thank you for that. Just going back onto the point about confidence that you mentioned, I was actually listening to a podcast the other day, and one of the guest speakers was like somebody really high up in one of the big investment firms, and he was talking about having dyslexia, and even now to this day he gets worried about having to write something down in a meeting and show people in case people laugh at him, and it goes all the way up to that level. So it's funny, isn't it? Like it's just something that I suppose the person needs to work on and almost not care about it, as long as they know that they are doing everything that they can to overcome obstacles that they have, I suppose. Just just concentrate on yourself, I think.
It's more common than you think as well. I think it's one of those things, I think if it's affecting you and you feel worried about it, you're then more alive to it anyway because it's something that you're concerned about. But it's amazing just how many people have dyslexia or how many people know somebody who has dyslexia. So it's actually so much more common than you think it is. And there's also varying degrees of it. So there's mild forms of it. There's really severe forms of it. But I think it is sometimes really hard, I think, having that confidence in yourself. And as you're saying about that gentleman who's talking about being high up at a bank and writing things down, it is daunting because you think, oh no, I don't want anyone to think any less of me because I can't spell. I remember being at primary school and I was awful at spelling. I was in top set for maths, and as soon as it came to spelling, I was in bottom set, and I hated it because I just felt like I couldn't do it. And that really, like that, it's still, even now, the idea of doing a spelling test just makes me feel uncomfortable because I'm just like, oh, I couldn't think of anything worse. But it brings back that kind of fear, I think, sometimes of being back at school and kind of feeling like you're being a bit exposed because you can't spell. And
it's that pressure.
Yeah, the pressure.
But spell my name. No, I'm joking. That was an extreme example, but it's kind of like that. So can you talk to us about the surgeries that you've been undergoing and how these have affected you and your career?
Yeah, sure. So, it's been a bit of a turbulent year for me. So it's been about a year now. I ended up having an abscess in my glute, completely out of the blue. So I play a lot of hockey, you probably remember from back in the day, and I just was a bit lazy in lockdown, I confess, and started playing hockey again and just thought it was a muscle injury for that. And it turned out to being an abscess. And I ended up in emergency surgery, having it drained. Had no idea about any of this or like, you know, what it meant. And I ended up having to take a couple of weeks out of work, and then have been having ongoing surgeries to basically fix the core issue at the moment. So I'm due to have surgery number 8 in about a week's time, and I'm due to have 12 surgeries in total. So I've had, it'll be 7 so far in the last year. And then, should be hopefully finished next year in June. But yeah, it's been a challenging time. I've always taken my health for granted. And I've usually been very fit and healthy. I've never really had to think about it. And it really threw me, especially in the middle of a pandemic as well, because things were changing anyway with the work from home and kind of changing kind of your setup, etc. So this was definitely something that definitely threw a massive spanner in the works for me. But work-wise, there's obviously been, it's not been the ideal yet, because I recently got promoted as an associate, and I'd want to have gone into my associate year really kind of flying with it, but it's kind of obviously had to kind of take a bit of a step back. But I've still managed to work whilst this has been going on. I've been full-time now since February, and Burges Salmon have been really great and really supportive of kind of making sure that I get back on track and that I'm where I need to be. But yeah, it's obviously would have affected my career in the sense I'm not doing, you know, the chargeable hours that someone who is fit and healthy would do. But again, it's really made me kind of appreciate the work that I am doing and the exposure I have had and the clients I have and the work that I have still been able to do alongside these surgeries. And I think every time I tell someone, they're like, "What? You look well." Like, and in myself, you know, I can now go to the gym. I can now do everything that I used to be able to do. Bar a few things. I'm not allowed to ride a bike yet, but I never really was an avid cyclist anyway. But it's it's been an interesting time, and I think this whole kind of 18 months or nearly 2 years kind of in lockdown and working from home has had a real kind of benefit for me, because it has meant that I've been able to work from home. I've had a standing desk. I've been able to kind of manage kind of coming back to work after each surgery and picking things up, and not having to necessarily be in the office to do that. I have been back into the office, which has been great, and I like being in the office because I get to go see everyone who I work with. But I think the kind of flexible working side of things has really helped me in my own kind of personal situation with that. So, but it's definitely taught me about resilience. I'll say that, and appreciating my health, and also just being aware, you know, just more aware of what other people are going through, and just, you know, you don't really have much of a choice of kind of the bad things that happen to you in life. This is kind of my mantra now, but you can choose how you deal with them. And I think your attitude as to kind of how you pick yourself up and how you move yourself forward is kind of you in your control, and how you can manage it and how you can kind of push yourself forward and kind of get the best out of what you can, really.
Yeah, I think that's so important. Before I move on to the next question, I have to ask, are you going to pick up the hockey stick again when you have fully recovered?
So I tried to pick it up again in June for Summer League, but it was too much too soon. So I
hope Miss Seymour's not listening to this.
I know. I'm taking a season. Well, yeah, I'm taking a season out just to kind of get back to where I need to be. It was weird because just before all this happened, I was running like half marathons. I was the fittest I'd ever been. I was thinking, I'm going to really kind of get into the season. So there we go. You know, throw a spanner in the works.
Oh, I knew there was a reason why I didn't play hockey, and now I know.
Before we get into the second half of the episode, I'd like to take this opportunity to talk about the sponsors of today's show and the law school that I chose to study my LPC at, and that's the University of Law. The University of Law believes in training students for the real world from the moment they accept a place. Their experienced career service and award-winning pro bono clinics offer students the chance to get real-life experience from the start. They offer a range of postgraduate legal training and master's degrees designed by qualified experts to help students advance at any stage of their career. Their courses are employment-focused, honing key skills in a teaching environment based on real legal practice. Part-time and online study options are also available on many of their courses to help students work and study at the same time. To find out more about the courses on offer, click the link in the description box of the podcast.
What were the reason that you decided to become a solicitor who specialises primarily in the construction and engineering dispute resolution team?
So quite an interesting one. My dad's a civil engineer, and I think he always wanted me to be an engineer, but I never really wanted to. I always was like, no, I want to go and do law. No one in my family is a lawyer either, so it's kind of a weird. They're all either teachers or engineers. So I went to uni thinking I'd do criminal law. So as I touched on the mock trial earlier, like I did a mock trial when I was back at school, and I really enjoyed it. And kind of, I was like, I'm definitely going to do a legal career. That's what I want to do. And it wasn't actually until I got into my training contract that I knew I wanted to be a litigator, because I paralegaled whilst I was doing my LPC, and I enjoyed kind of the litigation side of things as opposed to transactional. I don't mind transactional. I still enjoy it, but I'm definitely more on the litigator fence. And I went into my training contract, and they didn't have a seat in litigation at the time, but they did have a seat in construction litigation. And I remember speaking to one of the partners, and they said, look, it's very, very similar, but you've just got, it's construction, you've got tangible buildings, you can see things. It's very different to different forms of litigation. So I did a seat in it and absolutely loved it. And I think that was kind of my kind of ticket in. And I think, the thing that I really enjoy about construction is just how different every project can be, the different buildings, the different ideas, the different issues that come up in them. It's just a very, very interesting area. And I think it also goes to how my brain operates, because if you show me an issue, like a defect in a building, I can see it. And I'm like, I can see that. My brain can see it, and it can like logically break it down and be like, that's the issue. I get that. Or I can read an expert report and kind of follow it through. And I think that then plays on kind of my advantage of kind of how my brain works.
Yeah.
And I think the thing is with law, and I don't think you necessarily know it that much when you're kind of going through school or going through university, is that it touches on so many different parts of life, and you can really just take it wherever you want to take it. So you can do something like construction if it interests you. You can go and do something like sports law if that's something that really interests you as well. I think sometimes when you're younger, definitely you only see kind of the criminal side, because that's all you see that's in like the public domain, when actually there's just so much out there that you can do. That's
really interesting. I love how you're able to like see what's going on by looking at a plan. Like on that, I was reading an article the other day about how people in construction are using virtual reality now to like build like infrastructure things. Have you come across any like disputes over over companies using this kind of thing?
Yeah, so I haven't seen any disputes on it yet. So it's a thing called BIM that's kind of coming out at the moment, and it basically is a modelling, and it's 3D modelling, and it's really interesting. And I'd really recommend if you like construction, go and have a look at it. I've met some really interesting people who are starting to kind of really develop BIM. We've not seen. I've personally not seen any disputes on it yet. It's kind of still in its kind of early kind of points, shall we say? So it's got time. It's got time to kind of create disputes in the long run, I'm sure. But it's an interesting time in construction because of the different technology that's coming out. So you've got things like your BIM, like your virtual stuff that you're talking about there, the different kind of materials that you can use. It's always developing, and it's just a really kind of interesting area in terms of designs and ideas that come out and things that are changing and how it's responding. So things like the different uses of energy at the moment that we're seeing coming through to kind of hit those net zero targets. It's a forever moving industry, I think, and forever changing. And I think that's what, again, makes it a really kind of interesting kind of career to follow.
Yeah. It's interesting that you're talking about digital aspects and ESG aspects. And as a law student who's working hard on, becoming very commercially aware, it's funny to see how all these different kind of things merge together and like everything's affected by everything. So that was a real interesting eye-opener. So I'm going to come back on to interesting cases that you have worked on a little bit later on. But before we do move on to that, when you have a litigious case, at what point do you instruct a barrister, and how does the solicitor and barrister relationship work?
So that was quite an interesting one. So it really depends on the case, the size of the case, and the client. There's lots of different kind of moving points. especially in construction, because we have a special dispute resolution procedure called adjudication. So it's basically a process where a dispute can be resolved in either 28 to 42 days under statutory adjudication. And it was a mechanism that was designed to basically get a dispute resolved really quickly so that you could continue on site. So when we've got something like an adjudication going on, we sometimes do quite a lot of it ourselves, and we'll do the submissions and work through them. But it also depends on kind of the size of it. If it's a really big adjudication and we think actually there's a really particular point of law that we want to have a barrister come and comment on, then we'll engage them to kind of have a look at that. And actually, we've engaged them on a few matters recently, and especially in like civil litigation cases, we try and get them engaged on that due to kind of presenting the issues at court, because as solicitors, you're limited on what you can present at court unless you're a solicitor advocate. So we try to kind of engage them and get them involved as soon as possible so that we can kind of marry up the process together and we can work together. I think it's really important with that solicitor-barrister relationship that you do work as a team. It's not just them and us. It's that kind of, let's get this fluid relationship moving forward so that we can really get the best out of each other for our client. So yeah, it's a difficult one to answer because there's no kind of definite answer as to when we get them involved, or why we get them involved, or who we get them involved for. It really just depends on a case-by-case basis. So yeah, it's probably not a very helpful answer.
No, that's a fantastic answer. So you talked about solicitor advocates and before when you did mooting at school. Would you recommend that law students, even if they are quite sure that they want to be a solicitor who doesn't advocate at all, would you recommend that they still do mooting just to get the experience?
Yes, moot as much as you can. So I did mooting at university. I was Mistress of the Moot at Exeter. I did national and international moots, and it is just a brilliant way to complement your understanding of the law, because the questions that you'll be mooting over will potentially be questions that come up in your exams. So you've had that chance to really kind of get into the case law. You've had that chance to really get into the issues. So it really complements your studies. It also develops your thinking, like how are you going to approach this? How would I argue it from one side? How would I argue it from the other side? It starts to focus you on how you'd write your submissions as well. So I'm a massive advocate for mooting. I think it's a brilliant thing to get involved with and do. 100%. Even if you know you're going to be a solicitor, even if now you're like, I'm absolutely going to be a solicitor, still go and moot. There's no reason why you shouldn't. I think it's a brilliant way for you to really test your mind, test your quick thinking, because you'll still be stretched and asked these questions on the phone by clients. You'll still need to kind of have that quick thinking on your feet. It will really cement your knowledge and complement your studies.
Yeah. I did it in the first year of uni, and it helped with my confidence a lot as well. So it's just good to know that when you're finished, people won't start immediately laughing at you, and that you can do it. Even if you suck, just go and do it, because it does help with confidence. You
will be 10 times better than you think you are. Like 100% you will be. I know like it can be really daunting and you think, oh, is it for people that, did drama at school and really enjoyed that sort of thing and really enjoyed public speaking? But I think when I don't know if you found it, but when you're kind of really into the moot, you just kind of forget everyone's there.
Yeah.
You're just like, right, I'm looking at this, I'm responding to these questions. And it's amazing how quickly your time goes. I think sometimes you think, oh God, I've got to fill like 10 minutes or 15 minutes talking on a point. And it's amazing just how quickly that time goes. Yeah. So I think if you are nervous at mooting, just go and give it a go. The worst that can happen is that you do it and you absolutely hate it, but you've done it.
Yeah. That's so true. A piece of advice from a barrister that I used to work with actually once said to me, because I was not prepared for the mooting competition the next day, he was like, just go and do it, because there's going to be times in your life where you're not prepared and where you are going to fail. So even if you fail and you suck, like you just like, that's just, as you were saying, it's building resilience. So thank you for that. What has been the most common dispute or disputes that you've worked on since qualifying?
I'm trying to think. That's again, I'm very fortunate that I have a real range of disputes. I think that's what's a really nice element of being in construction, is that no real dispute is the same, no client is the same. So I've had a real range of disputes. So when I first qualified, I moved to Devon, Britain, was doing quite a lot of PFI, so doing a lot of kind of hospital disputes, and they were really interesting. And I really enjoyed those. And now I'm kind of doing a lot more I've moved to kind of just get a bit more broader practice. So I'm doing a lot more kind of energy disputes and that side of things. So I don't think there's no one particular dispute that has stand out to me to go, oh, that's the one that, I really remember. I think all of them have been really interesting for different reasons.
Yeah.
And I think I just love to learn. I love meeting experts and learning about a certain, system of, it sounds really silly, but like a drainage system that's gone wrong. Why has it gone wrong? Or, certain bits of materials have gone wrong, or a building is doing this. Why is it doing that? It's just really interesting. And meeting experts in fields who really enjoy what they do. I think that's what's also really nice, is you spend a lot of time talking to experts and you think, wow, they're really passionate about that. And that's just really nice. It's a really nice thing to engage with people who are passionate about what they do.
Yeah. That's really, yeah, thank you. So has there been a spike in construction disputes related to the pandemic?
It's been busy. I think law, if you talk to any lawyer at the moment, they are busy. I think everyone has definitely picked up. I think we initially had a lot of queries coming in about force majeure. So kind of, with the pandemic, is this a force majeure? And a lot of that was kind of troubleshooting issues and looking at contracts for that. We were expecting to see kind of more final account disputes. So when you kind of get to the end of a project, how, having a bit of a dispute over how much it cost. So it's difficult. I've always been, since I qualified, I've always been busy. I don't think I've ever had a time where I've been like, oh, it's quiet. People used to always say to me, oh, August is really quiet. And I don't think I've ever had a quiet August.
Who?
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, who's it quiet for? So yeah, I think I've always been like a bit busy. And I find it weird when I'm quiet. I don't enjoy it when I'm quiet, because it just doesn't feel right. I'm always like, oh, I should be busy.
Yeah. Well, do you know what? If you get into the legal, sorry to interrupt you, first of all. If you get into the legal industry, you kind of expect to be busy, right? Or if you don't 100%. Expect to be busy, by the way, you're going to be busy.
Yeah, exactly.
So that sounds really good. I would hate to rock up to work and be like twiddling my thumbs, not really having much to do. So can you tell us about the most interesting case that you've worked on and why it was so interesting?
Oh, the most interesting. That's a really tough one.
I'm putting you on the spot now, like asking.
No, you are. I think I know. I'm just trying to think what because sometimes I think what I find really interesting, other people might think, wow.
No, come on. I'm asking you the personal question to you.
My most interesting one. Oh, that is a really difficult one. I would say I've been very fortunate. I've had a few. I think my most interesting ones have been working with some of the NHS trusts. Have been brilliant, and I can't go into a huge amount of detail as to kind of what those involved. But I think working with them and those in-house, they're just so passionate about their hospitals, and they really care about making sure that things are how they should be. So I wouldn't say it's necessarily my most interesting case. I just say client-wise, they've always been a very interesting client to work with, just because the people that have worked there have always just been so passionate about kind of their position and what's going on with their hospital, and that's always been really refreshing and really nice to work with. Yeah, that's
really nice to hear. So, what does an average day consist of for you? I'm sure.
An average day. So I'm quite keen on so I check my emails first thing, always check through and kind of make a priority list of things that I need to get through urgently. So always kind of check through that. I'm a sucker for lists. I absolutely love them. Love having to-do lists, love writing out. It just helps me focus on what I need to get through that day. Normally it really varies day to day. I'm really fortunate with that. It depends if I'm And it also depends what I've got on. If I've got an adjudication on, for example, that normally wipes out quite a lot of my time. So that's kind of going through submissions, engaging with clients, and working through things that way. So that's kind of a standard kind of adjudication, kind of just kind of churning things out, talking to experts, getting everything together, organising it and pulling it so that it's one big submission that gets submitted. But a lot of it is, working through documents, talking with clients, talking with members of my team, also doing business development. So I'm a member of FFT, which is a committee in, nationally, but I'm sit on the Western branch, and we are the junior end of FBE, which is Forum for the Built Environment. And we it's a mixture of kind of architects, project managers, kind of all sitting on a committee and doing things in the construction industry. So I do a lot of events and work with them, which is really good fun, and really enjoy that too. So it's not just doing the law. And I think sometimes that's what is potentially like what you don't necessarily understand when you're kind of going through law school, is that you are doing your BD, you're doing your billing, you're doing your kind of relationship management, and you're also kind of looking at the law and engaging with your clients and moving things forward.
Yeah, that's really interesting, and really good to know how, like, the percentage of stuff, I suppose, because I'm sure that some people may just think you're, sat at a desk the whole time doing lots of legal research and just mixing up contracts and stuff like that for court. So I'm going to move on now to past the interview, where we talk about an internship that you have done, or internships.
Yeah. What
were the benefits of having an internship at HSBC and a paralegal position before starting your training contract?
So I was part of the Prime Minister's Global Fellowship when I was 18. So I got to go to China for 6 weeks, which was brilliant. Absolutely loved it. And spent 2 weeks in Beijing and then 4 weeks in Shanghai. And as part of that, I had an internship at HSBC in their Shanghai office, which was it was brilliant. We got to meet loads of different heads of department, kind of understand about kind of how HSBC were kind of approaching globalization at that time. This was back in 2010, so it was literally just before I started university. And it was really nice to just kind of see an office environment. And I think the same can be said with paralegaling. So I paralegaled whilst I did my LPC part-time, which was it was basically a bit like a mini training contract. So I did 6-month stints, one in Camden, one in House, one at a London West End firm, and then one at an international firm. And it was just a really good exposure for me for moving around, so putting myself in different environments with different people, trying different areas of law, so that I was really learning about the different types of firms, but with the different areas of law, and kind of what suited me and what kind of made me kind of get excited to go to work and enjoy my day. So I really enjoyed it, and I'd be a massive advocate if you can do some form of internship or paralegaling, even if it's for a couple of weeks, just to kind of get you there to work out what you do like, but also work out what you don't like. Like, there will be areas of law that you will absolutely hate, and that's absolutely fine. And there'll be areas of law that you love, and that's great. And it is probably going to be the case, that the first area of law that you try, it might not be the one for you, but that doesn't mean that law isn't the career for you. You can try different parts of it. You can try different areas of it. And as we kind of touched on earlier, like, it can take you to so many different places, because the law touches so many different kind of parts of what we do in everyday life as well. So I'm a massive advocate for just get out there and try it, and kind of get used to working in an office and in an office environment as well.
Well, Laura, your journey into law is so exciting. It must have just been, I don't know, just so inspiring every single day, like going in and being so young and doing it as well. It must have been really energizing.
I think at the time I didn't realise how young I was. Do you know, when you kind of look at it a bit like you said earlier, where you think you know everything, you know the world. And I look back at it and go, oh God, I was pretty young to kind of be going in and doing everything I was doing. But I had some really good mentors along the way as well. And I think that's a big part of kind of growing your success, is find people who you want to kind of put as your mentor, and kind of, learn from them, ask them questions. They've been there, they've done it. they can tell you how they would have done it differently, which is also really good, because everyone says, oh, the gift of hindsight. Might not be a gift to you, but it could be a gift to someone else, and they could really learn from something that didn't go well for you. So definitely another thing is, yes, surround yourself with mentors, because they can really, really help.
Yeah, I agree 100%. How can trainees excel whilst in their training contract?
I would say it's all about your attitude and your willingness to learn, because you are not going to know everything. You're a trainee, you're coming to learn. It's part of your training contract is an opportunity for you to learn and for you to try the different areas of law. But the trainees that really stand out to me are the trainees that really want to get involved. They want to try everything. I think it's the attitude that they carry, that yes, they don't know everything, but they want to know everything, and they want to be engaged, and they want to do everything that they possibly can. So I think it's just, your attitude, I think is the key thing. I think, attitude, a good attitude, good can-do attitude and enthusiasm is the main thing.
That's great to know. Really good to know. So my last question, which I'm very sad about because I have absolutely loved chatting to you. What advice would you give to your younger self?
I would say you're much stronger than you think you are. You will have testing times, but you have a fantastic family and a fantastic support group of friends and colleagues that will always kind of get you through it. So use that support network, utilize it. And just, stop worrying all the time is another thing. We worry too much. Probably makes me good at what I do because I worry about absolutely everything. But, I think, you're stronger than you think you are. Stop worrying about everything, and you've got this. You've 100% got this. Have more confidence in yourself.
Fantastic. Right, well, I'm going to leave it there because I think that's just a fantastic note to end the show with. So thank you so much for being a guest. It's been a great episode. You've given such wonderful advice. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
This episode is sponsored by the University of Law. What really sets the University of Law apart from other universities is its belief that its students should learn in a realistic, professional and contemporary context. They focus exclusively on practice-based training and give students access to their extensive career service and jobs vacancy database as soon as they accept a place. Through the University of Law's Pro Bono programme, law students can hone their skills by working on real cases before they graduate. The University of Law offers a range of postgraduate legal training and master's degrees designed by qualified experts to help students advance at any stage of their career. Their courses are employment focused, honing key skills in a teaching environment based on real legal practice. Part-time and online study options are also available on many of their courses to help students work and study at the same time. The University of Law will help you reach your ambitions by delivering an outstanding academic and employment-focused experience, honing key skills in a teaching environment based on real legal practice. As soon as you begin your studies with ULaw, you'll learn how to think and act like a lawyer. Whether your aspirations are in law or other fields, their courses will balance academic rigour and practical skills so your career starts from day one. To find out more about the courses they have on offer, just click the link in the description box of the podcast.
To hear more of the Student Lawyers podcast, hit the subscribe button and leave us a star rating and review. If you would like to join the Student Lawyer as a writer, please email hello@thestudentlawyer.com.